magic of tarot. I am so excited to be here. Today is Purple Day, so purple is the word, all right? So we're going to talk about several really important things for you to know about working with tarot. Um, it's also kind of a personal conversation for me to have with you to explain to you all of the reasons why I love this language of the divine so much and how it has changed my life and the ways in which it can help to change yours. So, a little bit of history. I promise not to bore you to death, but just to give you the smallest little piece of where this all comes from. Tarot is about 600 years old-ish, okay? We don't have an exact date, but there's, some of the myths and rumors about tarot is that it was created by the Egyptians and carried across Europe by the gypsies, and no, not really. It was actually created as a parlor game. It was called Taroki, and it was a series of trump cards designed to be played over top of what was basically regular playing cards. And this happened about 600 years ago in the pizza-loving country of Italy. And it kind of took off. Yeah, people liked this. But the good thing slash bad thing about it is initially there were no printing presses, so this thing didn't take off that quick for the masses. It took off within very wealthy families. And why that is kind of cool for us today is only because you had to be very wealthy in order to hire someone to paint each little trump card for you. And so they were little works of art. And because there were people with money, they got preserved. And so we have a surprising amount of these very, very old tarot cards lying around for us to be able to study and explore because they were owned by wealthy people. So they weren't initially created as a divination tool, though there is some history of people just using regular playing cards as divination tools. So we kind of guess, probably someone started pretty soon using them for the same purpose, especially if they were people who were already using playing cards for divination tools. And so, but over time, in about the 1800s, people started kind of really getting the tarot vibe. All right. And that's when people like the Golden Dawn and others really started to ascribe all kinds of divination magical elements to tarot. And that's when it really started to kind of pick up. Now, when you see tarot cards, traditionally, probably, possibly, especially if you're around my age, then the first thing you saw was a deck that was traditionally called Rider-Waite, Ryderwaite. And it got that name because it came out in 1909. And it was created under the direction of Arthur Edward Waite for the artist Pamela Colman Smith. And so this was kind of the first deck to really gain traction where all of the cards had pictures on them, illustrations. Before that, the trump cards did, but 5 of cups was 5 cups, or 4 of wands was 4 wands. And so Rider was the publisher, and so it was kind of traditional. Back then, the deck got named Rider-Waite. Now, today, a lot of people call the deck the Waite-Smith deck to give honor to Pamela Colman Smith, who is a woman of color, and a lot of us, I'm including myself in that, think that she was actually the real brains behind the Rider-Waite deck. And so most people call it the Waite-Smith deck nowadays. And so that came out in 1909, big success. And so it was really the mainstay for a long, long time. But somewhere in there, a lot of other people started wanting to create their own versions of this. And a lot of those versions tend to be almost exact copies of Rider-Waite, just with different illustrations. So for example, Eight of Swords being a card of a woman who is blindfolded surrounded by swords. So that particular card would get redrawn as being, I don't know, a fairy being surrounded by 8 swords, or a man instead of a woman. People just putting their own spin on it, but very closely kind of copying it. Now, I started to play with tarot cards about 30 years ago. I was 5 years old. Yeah, no, not really. But anyway, I was young enough, okay? So about 30 years ago, I started playing with tarot, or tarot, it was as it's called in the part of the country that I'm actually was born in. And so I didn't like Rider-Waite right off the bat. I didn't like the scary images. I didn't like the guy laying face down in a pool of blood with 10 swords in his back, or a big red heart with 3 swords dripping blood, and devils and and skeletons. And I just didn't like that. That just was not my vision. It was not my way of thinking about my connection to the divine. Some of those kind of spooky, scary, gruesome imagery that can be in traditional tarot is there because 600 years ago things were a little rough, right? It was like, and so people were illiterate also. So not a lot of words on cards. Because people can read. And so the imagery was a little rough and tumble. But when I was learning tarot, I didn't want rough and tumble. I wanted an experience of the divine. I wanted an experience of a source, God, goddess, whatever word you want to use, that was one that was loving and gentle and kind. And so back in 2012, I got the opportunity to create my first tarot deck. And so I am now up to 6 tarot decks. It's number 7 comes out in October, and 2 more come out after that. So I'm kind of like trying to corner the tarot market. And I did it a little differently. And so my very first deck that came out was very popular. It's called Angel Tarot Cards, all right? And so what I did with this deck was, first of all, I tried to take what I had learned when I was learning tarot and apply it. And like I said, traditionally, there's not a lot of words on tarot decks. The trump cards have names, and that's kind of it. And so I wound up having to find a tarot deck that I could live with. And I wish I could show it to you, but I can't because I don't have rights to those images. But what I did is it had a white border. And so I went through the guidebook and whatever books I could find about tarot, and I wrote in black Sharpie around the card, all the way around in black Sharpie, to say, what does this card mean? Because 78 cards with bazillions of possible meanings is a lot of memorization, which is one of the things that's kept people back from playing with tarot for a very long time. And we'll talk about that little myth as well. And so I wrote words all the way around. And so when it came time for me to create a tarot deck, I wanted to put some words on every card to make it easier, to jumpstart people's ability. I wanted people to be able to immediately pick up a deck of tarot cards and use them and feel great about it. And so I also, when I was doing that, I made lots of other changes. It's like, if you're going to change one thing, change it all, right? So I kept the tradition of tarot intact. The 78 cards, they're all there, their meanings are intact, it's all intact. But I changed certain things, like this card is the dreamer. And in traditional tarot, it's called the Fool. I didn't like that. It makes it sound like every time you pull this card, you're stupid. And that's just absolutely not. It's the dreamer, taking a leap of faith, going after what you want, going after your dreams. This, in the metaphor of tarot, is coming in, being incarnated into the world and getting started. Other cards that I changed were things that said death, because it never means death. It never means a physical death. So why call the card that? And devil, why call the card that? That was a crazy thing to do in today's sensitive, natured, light workers. And so I changed those cards to be release for the death card and ego, because the release card / death really actually means an ending, but not a physical ending, but an ending. And the devil card, it's not about some guy in a red suit with a pitchfork chasing you around. It's just not. It's about us getting control of our nature that gets in our way, our materialistic nature, the things that trap us, that actually we have control over if we just allow ourselves to take that control. And so I redid it. I redid the suits. So there's major arcana cards, but instead of wands, there was fire, the elements. Instead of cups, water. Instead of swords, air. And instead of pentacles or coins, earth. And I made a deck that didn't scare the bejeebies out of people. That's what I wanted. I wanted the seriousness of the cards to still be in there. I just didn't want it to be dripping in blood and goo and have words that freaked people out. And, there's a lot of myths that surround tarot that I felt like kept people from getting to experience this magical, I call it a language of the divine, this magical way of connecting to source, all that is, the universe. And so I wanted to sort of like start to unpeel some of those. I don't know if you've ever seen tarot in a movie or in television or anything like that, but it's always the death card that flips out, right? It's like scared the bejeebies out of people. In the 1800s, when the Golden Dawn in particular, were really trying to teach people, or were really starting to work with tarot, I should say, they wanted it to be special. They kept it all secret because it made them special, and you had to be one of them in order to be taught. And so it turned the tarot into this thing that people perceived to be very, scary, very unknown, very difficult. There was this myth that you had to be special and able to be able to learn tarot. It was only certain people of certain IQs and certain gifts were able to work with tarot, and that's just not true at all. Not true. There's also a lot of traditions and myths out there that are funny to me now, but they really matter to people, and I still get asked these questions even in 2020. I get asked these questions. Someone just recently asked me, it's like, is it true that I can't go buy my own tarot deck? I have to be gifted a deck. No, that's crazy. I have like 78 decks or something. It's like I've lost count. I don't remember how many I have. That you do not have to be gifted a deck. You can, in fact, I don't even think that makes sense, because you should be allowed to go choose a deck that you energetically resonate with. I started this whole thing by talking about how I did not resonate with Rider-Waite at all. And it's like, if that would have been what I was gifted for sure, And so I would have this deck that I didn't like, didn't care for, didn't feel right to me, didn't relate to me. And that would make reading tarot really difficult. But we're lucky. We're lucky because, well, right this second, there might be some challenges about going to your favorite metaphysical bookstore. But you can go. Just make sure you wear a mask and you socially distance and you do all the things you need to do. But that's a lovely thing if you can still do that where in your area, because then you can go and you can look at the cards and you can sort of understand their energy and figure out which one resonates for you. If that's not an option for you, either because of the things that are going on in the world right now, or because maybe there isn't a metaphysical bookstore that is within a reasonable driving distance for you, and so you just can't really do that. But you know what you can do? You can go to any online bookseller and search for tarot, and hundreds of options are going to come up. Now, I'm going to recommend you choose the ones that are by Radleigh Valentine, because those are the nicest ones. I'm just kidding. I don't care which one you choose. I'm far, far more invested in getting you past any fears or worries that you have with tarot than I am about which particular deck you buy. I just want you to be able to experience the magic and the enlightenment and the inspiration and the creativity that I have been able to get to enjoy after 30 years of tarot. Another great thing for you to do is, oftentimes if you go to an online bookseller, there'll be, I don't know, 4 or 5 pictures of the cards and that's it. Well, that's not really all that great. But what you can do is you can go to your favorite internet browser. I use Google, and type in the name of that deck that you think you like. Let's say you think you like Archangel Power Tarot cards, but you're not sure. And so you type it in and click on images, and bazillions of images from that deck will pop up, and you can look at the entirety of the deck pretty much. Pinterest is another great place to go do that. Where you can then look at all the images and sort of get a feel of, yeah, this is the one for me, or no, I liked the 4 images that were posted on the bookseller, but I don't like the rest. But we have that ability. We can do that in 2020, and so we're really lucky that way. Another myth that is a common one that some people still give credence to is that you need to take your cards out of the box that they came in. Sorry, one moment. Sorry about that. Take your cards out of the box that they came in and put them in something else. So I did that for a really long time. This piece of satin is 30 years old. And I used to take the deck that I liked and wrap it up in this. Nowadays, if you go to metaphysical bookstores, or even if you just go to Etsy, you can find things like this, little pockets that you can put your cards in. It is a myth that, and one more, take them out of the box that they came in and put them in a wooden box. So those are the things that people used to kind of believe. And you can do that if you want to. I mean, especially if you have one deck or maybe 2 or 3 and that's it. So that you can know by looking at, the satin you have chosen, perhaps it's 3 different colors, you can know right away which deck you're grabbing. But if you've got like a bazillion decks like I do, like my students do, who I swear are currently trying to outdo each other by the number of decks that they have. Yeah, definitely there needs to be what would it be? TA, Tarot Anonymous for my students. But you don't have to do that. I literally leave them in the box they're in. Okay, because, and especially given that I have personally created so many tarot decks at this point, I just want them in the box they're in, as long as the box has been cleared and the cards have been cleared, something we'll talk about in a little bit. So let's see what else. Gifted, put them in satin. You have to be special. Oh, you have to be initiated, that someone has to choose you to be someone who can learn how to do tarot. No. I mean, these are just all myths. Oh, another big one. This is a big one. There's an old myth that people, I think, still somewhat believe or are afraid of, is that tarot shows you the future that absolutely is and cannot be changed, that it's fate. And that is not true either. We always have our own inspired free will. Tarot will tell you where the energy of things is headed. And if you don't like that, change course, change what you're doing, change direction. Tarot is also very happy to give you suggestions on what to do to change and how to get to a place that leads you to a life of joy. So when I talk about things like the satin and those kinds of things, it's not that I'm saying that tradition or ritual are invalid. They're not. They're really not. It's just that tradition and ritual only have power that we give it. And so we can look at power that people from the past have given to their spiritual practices. And that's great, but it only has power for our spiritual journey if we choose to make it a part of our ritual, to make it one of our traditions. And so, yeah, for a very long time, my cards were wrapped in this because there was only one deck. Well, there were the bazillions of decks I had bought and then thrown in a box because they scared me just as bad as Rider-Waite did. But when I found a deck, this was the only deck I used. It was wrapped in this satin for many years. I would lay this satin out and I would lay the cards on top of the satin. And that was my ritual. And so it meant something to me. It created confidence in me because I decided that it was a ritual. When we take as solid truth someone else's ritual, then in essence it controls us. And so what's the point of that? We don't like that. We don't want that. So that's some of the crazy cuckoo myths that you may have heard about in tarot, or if you haven't heard about them, now when you do hear about them, you can just go poof. Or you can choose one that really seems to matter to you. But then it's you empowering the ritual. That's when it matters. So I would like to talk next about the difference between tarot cards and oracle cards. We have a lot of brothers and sisters out there who are watching about tarot because they've been curious about it, but they think that it's really complicated. They think it's really confusing. They don't understand it, but they love their oracle cards. And so they're like kind of wondering, am I gonna like try tarot also? So I wanted to show you some oracle cards first, all right? And then we'll go to tarot. So this is my oracle card deck. It's called Angel Answer Oracle Cards. And the thing about oracle cards, whereas tarot is a closed system of 78 cards, oracle cards can be anything under the sun. It just can, all right? So it can be 44 cards like this, because I'm a big angel guy, and 44 means angels are with you. And so 44 cards for my oracle card deck. But it can be 56 cards, 62 cards, 12 cards, 1 card, 39 cards, whatever the creator of the Oracle card deck wants it to be. It can also be whatever theme that the Oracle card deck creator wants it to be. So this one that I made is because I had so many people when I was out on the road who were saying, can't I just have cards in tarot that say yes or no? Or a week from now. And it occurred to me that what they were really wanting was you know those magic 8 balls that you shook? And it would say probably, most likely. Well, that's what they wanted. And so this deck does that. And it gives you yes, no, solid. I mean, there's a yes card and a no card, and a week from now card, but also regular reading cards that say things like opportunities and the situation will improve and romance. And so that's this deck. Also, other decks by other authors that I love. This is by my friend Colette Baron Reid. Love her. This is Wisdom of the Hidden Realms. It's beautiful. Let me just show you. So like here we have the Rainbow Prince and Hungry Ghosts and Sun Dancers. So it's a beautiful deck created by Colette to provide information to people with using the hidden realms of fairies and the like as a metaphor for people to be able to interact with their subconscious. Here is, I adore this woman, Denise Linn. I love her with all of my heart. This is Gateway Oracle cards. Also just a beautiful deck. This is the kind of deck that when I was first starting to read cards that I would have been drawn to. So here we have Accepting What Is, Awakening Ancient Wisdom, Being in the Flow. I love this one. Look. Believing in magic. And so, you know, one of the things that, like I said, you can do is that you can go and look at different Oracle card decks and see which ones, you know, feel like they matter to you. I mean, here's Angel Answers. I didn't show you that. Remain positive. Let go. Opportunity. Be assertive. So, like I said, Oracle cards can be whatever the artist or the author wants them to be. And that makes them wonderful. And also, a lot of them have words on them. A lot of them have explanations on them. People felt like they could sit down and immediately start to work with them. Angel-based Oracle cards were a huge thing, a huge start to the Oracle card industry. And so people felt safer because they felt like tarot was scarier because of death cards and devil cards and things like that. So let's talk about next about how tarot is structured. So then we're going to start with angel tarot cards, okay? And so what you're basically working with here is 5 suits, all right? So you have what's called the major arcana. These are the trump cards that were tarot key 600 years ago, or as best we know them, because different publishers, once there was a printing machine, different publishers all started doing their own versions. And so it's a little mixed up from the deck 600 years ago. But these cards, the major arcana, tend to be cards that talk about major events in our life. And so, but they're metaphors. So this is the Dreamer, otherwise known as the Fool in traditional tarot, which is about incarnation. This is the Magician, okay, where we figure out that, hey, I can move stuff around, right? Okay, the High Priestess. So this is the metaphor, okay, I'm born, I'm here, I can move crap around. Now the High Priestess is go within and figure out what it is that you want to move around and why. The Empress is, okay, that's enough thinking, let's create. And the Emperor is, yeah, but if you create all willy-nilly, then that's insanity. So that's chaos. So we need rules and structures. And then unity. Yeah, but rules and structures without compassion is just its own version of tyranny. So we need a spiritual discipline that we all follow and that we develop within ourselves. And so the cards go through that. Here's falling in love for the very first time, being successful, all kinds of different things, all the way through the metaphorical story of when we pass back over into the light. And so that's the major arcana, all right? The other 4 suits are structured very similar to regular playing cards. So we have ace through 10, all right? Ace through 10 cards, all right? And in this particular case, with my suit of fire, I used dragons as the icon for the suit. And so there's ace through 10, and that's called the pip cards. And then there are court cards, which are page, knight, queen, and king. See, rather like playing cards. And that's the suit of fire. And then all of the other suits have the exact same thing. Ace through 10 and page through king. Ace through 10 and page through king. Oh, the water suit has mermaids. The air suit has unicorns. And the earth suit, ace through king, fairies. All right. And so this just sort of goes to show you a little bit about how in today's world, people are taking tarot and putting their own spin upon it. So in my spin, the dreamers, or any particular card we pull, 7 of fire, has the same energy, the same meaning as 7 of wands would in Rider-Waite. It's just, this is my way of showing it, and a way of showing it that to me is palatable, is comforting to my soul, comforting to my spirit, doesn't frighten people that I do readings for, and just makes everybody feel at peace. I feel that tarot has to stay tarot. So it has to be 78 cards. It has to be 5 suits, ace through 10 pip cards, the 4 court cards. If you vary off of that, then to me, you've kind of varied off of tarot. A friend of mine has a deck that's very beautiful, and he calls it a tarot oracle deck. And I think that's perfect because he decided he didn't want a lot of the traditional cards, and I think it only has, maybe it has 56 cards in it, maybe. And he did a beautiful job, and by calling it Tarot Oracle, it's like, yeah, that makes sense to me. It's an oracle card that's based on tarot, but it isn't tarot. This, on the other hand, is tarot still, because all 78 cards, the structure is still there. So when people look at tarot, they get all Twitter-pated and worried that, oh, it's too complicated, I can't do it. That's just not true. All right, so let's compare, shall we? Let's compare from Denise Linn's Gateway Oracle cards, shall we? Let's compare. We'll just pull a card from here. Oh, I know, let's pull the star card. All righty, and we'll just randomly pick a card from Denise's deck. So let's say that you're very comfortable with oracle cards. The name of this card is Making a Decision. And at the bottom it says, my inner light shines far and wide. That's so Denise. Well, here's the star card from Angel Tarot Cards. The star, Archangel Jophiel, and it says, happy times, make positive, optimistic, long-term plans on the right path. So really, what's the difference? What's the difference from the standpoint of your ability to be able to read from this deck or this deck? That's what I'm telling you. If you're comfortable with oracle cards, You can do tarot cards, especially if they're angel-based tarot cards and have this kind of structure on them that helps you to be able to dive in from day one. So that's why my cards are, I mean, they're even the same size. See? They're even the same size. So that's just meant for me to be myth busting. Who are you going to call? You know, from the standpoint of you be feeling like you can't do this, you can do this, you can jump into this right away. Now, why would I want you to try out tarot if you're comfortable with oracle cards? Well, let's just here's a difference, and this is not knocking Denise's deck. I love this deck. That's the reason I chose to wanted to emphasize it. But this is sort of typical oracle card imagery. So we have a cup with some magic coming out of it sitting in a window. And this card means deep inner knowing is emerging within me. Well, let's take a look, for example, at just to compare things, at this particular card, the Star. So what do we have here? We have Archangel Jophiel. Jophiel is the archangel whose name means the beauty of God. And she helps people to see the positive. And in the story of Tarot, this card is following a bunch of not happy stories. Things have not been going well. But when the Star comes out, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. And so what is she doing? She is pouring water out of 2 urns, all right? And so this is a card of faith. This is a card of wish upon a star. Things are finally getting better. And she is pouring the water out. And in one of those streams, the water breaks into 5 separate little rivers. And that represents the 5 senses. That is the material world. But yet on the other side, it's just one single stream. And that is the spiritual nature of us. On her shirt, she wears the golden emblem that is Aquarius, because this card is ruled by the sign Aquarius. And in the nighttime sky are 8 stars. Well, the number of the card is 17. 1 plus 7 equals 8. Numerology, right? And behind us are great peaks of mountains that indicate the heights that we can now attain. This is tarot. This is tarot. And you can take it upon yourself. You can take a class. You can read books. You can take it upon yourself to be just as big a geek as I am when it comes to tarot. And you can learn all the symbolism. You can learn all of the stuff that I just told you, times 78 cards. You can learn all that if you want to. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can still buy tarot cards. You can still sit down and read them the same way that you read your oracle cards. And there's no fear here. It's gone. There are sad stories, all right? There are sad stories. In traditional tarot, so let me show you. This is Angel Wisdom Tarot cards. This is my new deck that comes out in October. And so in traditional tarot, okay, there is a card that is, I mentioned it earlier, it's a heart with 3 swords stuck in it, and it's dripping blood. And it means sorrow, it means sadness, it means going through something difficult. Well, we don't have to have a bleeding heart. So here we have Archangel Azrael, the archangel that comforts those who are in great sadness. And we can see behind her that a storm is brewing. And she is wearing her feelings on her chest, this heart-shaped brooch, and the 3 swords are behind her. But Azrael is there to comfort us, and it says, great sadness that will heal with time. Let go of the past. Personal growth that comes from challenges, healing misunderstandings, and being there for those in need. So, scary goo gone, right? Scary goo gone. Here's another one. I mentioned this one also earlier, that the woman who's tied up and handcuffed and wearing a mask so she cannot see and surrounded by swords. We don't need that, because that card anyway, Eight of Swords, literally means the illusion of being trapped. And so here we have this lovely young lady. She is not trapped. She has released her bonds. She's taking off her blindfold and swinging open the gate with the swords that once seemed to keep her from moving forward. And so you can do that. You can do that. You can look at the images. You can say, oh, I get it. I know how I feel about this right now. I understand the feelings that this creates in my heart. And be just as intuitive as you are with oracle cards, and do it with tarot cards as well. I've literally done everything I can to take the scary out for you, so that you can jump headlong into tarot, because I want you to have that experience. And I'm pretty sure that if you get your feet wet in tarot, you're just going to want to learn more and more. You're going to want to know more and more. I first came upon tarot about 30 years ago, and it was because of a love of angels. That was my main spiritual connection. That's what I cared about. I grew up very intuitive, very psychic. I knew my angels were there. I knew angels were real. And I wanted more. I wanted to know more about angels. And so it was really hard 30 years ago in Knoxville, Tennessee, to get anyone to teach you anything that wasn't the main religions. But there was America Online. You've got mail. And that is burned in my brain forever. And on America Online, there were these things called chat rooms. And there was one called Angel Speak. And I don't know if you remember this, you'd have to be as old as me, but chat rooms had a limit. I think it was 21 people could be in a chat room, and that's it. And so you literally had to just keep hitting the button until someone left, and then you could get in. And it was just always like hitting the button, and I, oh yes, I'm in. And I met a bunch of angel teachers in this room, and one of them was this wonderful woman named Carla. And Carla not only loved angels, she also loved tarot. And so that is where my connection to tarot began 30 years ago. And I became fascinated. And over the years, tarot has given me such insights, such comfort. It has alerted me to times when I was off path, and therefore allowing me to make changes. There are some cards in tarot that, are not happy stories, like that Three of Swords, where it's like, Three of Swords, where it's like, I'm really sad, something really sad happened. Or that Eight of Swords card that I showed you, where it's like, you are fooling yourself if you think you are disempowered, because you're not. And I call these heads up cards. This is tarot coming around to say to you, you're not going where you want to go. You're not going to like it. you don't have to go there. You have free will. And so tarot becomes this warning system that either that you're not thinking about something correctly, you're not interpreting your feelings correctly, your ego is running amok, 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 amok. And it allows you this opportunity to get insight that, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to go here. And so that you can ask the cards, well, what if I don't want to go here? How do I not go here? What's a better path? What do I do better? And tarot can help you with that. There have been times in my life, because I've been using these cards for so long, that tarot warned me of things that were going to happen that I couldn't change, because some things in life cannot be changed. And it's not, I'll just be honest with you about that one, all right? The cards gave me a heads up that my mother's time on planet Earth was coming to an end. And that might be the kind of thing that you don't want to know, but oracle cards can tell you the same thing. And I was grateful, because I was supposed to be traveling. I was supposed to be away. And because I knew that was coming, it allowed me to change everything, change my schedules, go back to Knoxville, Tennessee. I totally was expecting the phone call from my sister to say, Mom's not well, I think you need to come home. I was totally ready for that call. And to me, that was a gift. It was a gift that I got to spend time with my mom before she left. It was a blessing. Tarot can also tell you something wonderful is about to happen. Something magical. It can help you make choices. It can help you decide between moving to Chicago versus moving to San Francisco versus moving to Nashville, Tennessee. It can help you make those choices. It can help you to do so in an enlightened, inspired, and educated way. And so there are so many things where tarot has helped me and also helped my friends, where my friends have called me and said, I'm flipping out, do something. I'm just like, let's pull cards, let's see what we get. And, you know, it's like I have seen situations with my friends, one in particular, who will call me when things aren't going well, and we'll look at the cards and it looks kind of bad. And then you get to the end and it's like, happy ending. And everybody is, you know, and he and I will just look at it and go, wow, well, yeah, so happy ending. It's kind of challenging before the happy ending, but happy ending. And I think he has walked away from those many times thinking to himself, there is no way that there's a happy ending at the other side of that. And yet, there is. There has been. So I want to give you something to think about before our next webinar. So if you have got some tarot cards, then I really want you to pull them out, okay? I want you to pull them out. And I want you to do, this is something that I tell new people to tarot, is I want them to pull a card a day, all right? And just keep the card with them. You can use your phone to take a picture of the card so that you can carry it with you all day long without actually carrying the cards. And what you can do with that is then when you get to the end of the day, you can look back on it and go, how did all that fit together? But I want you to do something slightly different than that. I want you to do 3 cards a day. A 3-card spread is something that is very typical, very well known in oracle card readings or tarot readings. And so I want you to pull one in the morning, I want you to pull one at noon, and I want you to pull one in the evening. And I want you to, as the day goes by, kind of keep those cards separate in your mind. Pull that card first thing in the morning, and then as the morning progresses, see if you can kind of figure out what that card meant to you as the morning progressed. Then, when you get to lunchtime, noon, pull another card. Now, what I want you to do there is I want you to think about, okay, so we'll see how this affects the afternoon. But also as you're moving through the afternoon, think about the morning card and also the noon card, the lunch card, and go, how do those two energies, how does one lead to the other? Did the morning card accurately address what my morning was going to be like? And as the lunchtime card addresses how your afternoon is going to go, can you see how one led to the other in the cards? And then finally, when you pull that evening card, I want you to think about all 3 cards together, because this is you not just doing a 3-card reading, this is you living a 3-card reading. Okay, I want you to live a 3-card reading. And I want you to do that for the next couple of days before we come back to this same place to do our second webinar. Now, the second webinar is called Working with Spiritual Helpers in Your Tarot Readings. It's on Thursday, August 20th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about angels and fairies and animals. Oh my. And how they show up in tarot and how they can reflect not only what is happening in the questions you're asking tarot, but also how is happening with you spiritually inside yourself and with your spiritual helpers, the angels and animal totems and fairies and all kinds of, and people, even people who have passed over to the other side. My mom still helps me out all the time. You got somebody on the other side like that who's constantly watching over you, constantly helping you? I bet you do. So I want you to do that for the next 2 days, all right? Because I just want you to have this sense of how it works. I want you to blow past any worries, doubts, fears, anxieties that you have. I want you to also, more than anything, I kind of want you to see you can do it. I want you to see that you are, these are a powerful spiritual tool, but so are you. And so this is just a language for something that doesn't actually have words. It is a language for our connection to Source, the all that is, God and Goddess, the divine. And so it is a way for connecting with the divine. But you are the actual gifted aspect of this. This is just a language, but you are the thoughts, you are the feelings, you are the intuition. And I just want you to see you can do it. And I want you to feel this sense of confidence that it's gonna be okay. And I want you to see that it's not scary, okay? Now, if you try to pick a deck to work with that doesn't scare you, okay? Because that will be important. But give that a try. Give that a try. I'm pretty sure we have a link that we'll be adding to this space where you can go use Angel Tarot cards. I think it's Angel Tarot Cards. I think there's a link that we're going to be giving you that you can go pull cards with, even if you don't have a deck. All right. So give that a go. Let me think. I think I have. I just want to make sure I've not left anything out. I think that's it. I think I covered it all. I really would love for you to have this experience that has been so magical for me, that has done so much to make my life better, more beautiful, more enlightened, more inspired. And in working with some of these decks, you'll get closer to the angels. You'll get closer to understanding who the archangels are, who the guardian angels are, all of these different elements that can help you have a closer connection to the messengers of the divine known as angels, and how they can also help you in your life. So I think I'm done. Okay, guys. I think we're a few minutes quicker than we meant to be, but that's what I got. So you guys take care. So excited to see you, and see you in 2 days for our next webinar.